Well, speaking for Bill and myself, when we first published MAP, if you will, and got the negative reaction that we did from the plumbing industry, we decided that subsequent to that, in the future, when we dealt with issues like this, performance testing, that we would involve the manufacturers in the process. And I think we did that with UNAR. I know all of you don't know exactly what UNAR is, but it took MAP to the next step. And so it's our commitment to work with the industry, not separately, but together. And we've heard, the things we've heard today from the manufacturers, we've heard before, we just have not done it in a room like this, but we've heard it individually. So if you want to be a part of that forum, quote unquote, we'd love to have you, John.
That's great. And you mentioned earlier today, John, that if there's comments and whatnot that people want to send through, we should go ahead and do that, like a list of our positions, so on and so forth.
Yeah. Anybody here that has comments and wants to suggest improvements or changes, our email addresses will both be in the next presentation, so, or they're in the book, I suspect, so let us know.
And I had one other question, and this is probably a major can of worms, which we don't have to go into detail, but the simple part of it is the consumer reports, in my opinion, are not even close to the MAP testing protocol. And what you can see from what they're doing, which they do a very good job of hiding what they do, seems very suspect to me. And I'm just curious if either of you and Bill have been involved with consumer reports and defining how they test toilets, or are they just their own animal and they do their own thing?
Well, the latter is true. We've had numerous conversations with them. They know fully what MAP testing is. They've declined to include it for the very reasons that some of you expressed today. Well, it's only one factor in what a customer looks for. Of course, we've always said that. But they haven't chosen to use it publicly. But as you know, they don't disclose much about their testing protocol. And plus, nor do they test very many toilets. I think not the last issue, but the one before it, when you look at all the models and all their footnotes, it only came out to 29 different toilets models. And so that really is not representative of today's marketplace, which has a couple thousand models. Now, is that good? Well, it helps the consumer, especially helps the manufacturer whose toilet ends up at the top of the list. We know that, but they haven't been real receptive. So if you have a pipeline to consumers report and we want to talk with them further, be happy to talk with them.
I would just add, to the extent that the MAP test has morphed into the WaterSense program for HETs. I've had the opportunity to write an article in a column recently and talking to a number of manufacturers, and I see no groundswell. I mean, it's just overwhelmingly positive, the comments I heard about the WaterSense program and just how toilets are being tested now. So I really don't see, other than the ongoing discussion that John mentioned, I really don't see this as an ongoing debate going forward.
I think finally, to kind of wrap up my thoughts on this, if the standards, the ASME standards process had done what some of us thought it should have done back in the 90s and made the tests more rigorous, there would have never been a MAP test at all. But that failed to happen, and so some folks took it upon themselves to fund a supplementary test, and that's where we are today.
Okay, if there are no one more question, Jaime? Get a microphone? Uh-oh, okay.
John, when you said that you involve the industry, who exactly are you talking about when you say that?
Well, it's the manufacturers of the products, generally it's the ones who belong to the Plumbing Manufacturers Institute, but it's not limited to that. Mm-hmm. It's the ones who contact us the most, the squeaky wheel. So we have probably, I would say, ongoing engagement and dialogue with maybe 10 on performance, maybe more. But there's 60 manufacturers in the MAP report, so not everybody has chosen to become a part of the process.
Yeah, because when you say the consumers, I've been a plumber for 26 years, and I get a lot of people who call me and ask me, and they'll say, hey, what is it, I'm looking to remodel my house, I'm going to put in a new toilet, what do you recommend, And I can give them the information you got. I have my own personal preferences, in my own house I got 3 different toilets, because I want to see which one, suits best, But it's just one of those things I'm wondering. I was telling Russ earlier that in almost every presentation that I've heard, it's a lot of the manufacturing and salespeople involved, but I don't see, at least I haven't heard anybody specifically speak of any of the installers being involved in any of the process.
Well, I would just say, though, that with the WaterSense process, I mean, anybody is welcome to comment on the levels and the specifications that we set for products. And I think we do get, we have partners from both the big organizations of plumbers, and we have water utilities that are part of our process. Sometimes the California Energy Commission participates. And then we sort of represent the views of consumer as the U.S. government. So I think if there are plumbers out there who feel like they have a position or a point of view that they don't feel is being heard, we would be really receptive to hearing that, because I think it's a stakeholder group that we don't hear a lot from, but they are partners in the WaterSense program, and we would certainly like to hear more from them, because we're always concerned about what happens to the product when it goes in the consumer's house. And I mean, I have a lot of discussions with my plumber because he comes so often. I think it's just a really valuable viewpoint for us to have. So we'd be, at least from our perspective, we would be really happy to have more plumbers as part of our process.
Much of that can take place through green plumbers, and that's where I've gotten a lot of the feedback from the contractors, plumbers, and the related trades.
Did you get both parts in, Jaime? Because I wanted to follow up with Stephanie. Stephanie, a question I had for you. The WaterSense program, it has an irrigation professional partner of the year. It does not have, at this point, a plumbing professional partner of the year to recognize engineers, plumbing contractors. Is that something, a category that you would consider adding? I look at fellows like John, and yeah, Bill's a Canadian, but I think he would qualify.
Yeah,
I look at
Bill, no.
I look at Bill Erickson, who headed up, who chaired the Green Technical Committee supplement. I think he would be a worthy candidate. I'm not want to put you on the spot, but I'm asking you if that's something that you would consider adding.
Well, it's not that. I think the problem is that we have a category of WaterSense labeled programs for irrigation partners. And so the WaterSense Partners of the Year awards are for people who promote the program through their partnership category. And we don't have a category of partners for plumbers. There's a lot of reasons for that, none of which anyone in this room will enjoy. But I think it's really just it's a resource issue, and we feel like for lots of professionals, there's ways to participate in the program and support the program without necessarily being a partner. But we do have partners with the big trade unions and the trade associations for plumbers, and they do provide a lot of feedback, and we talk with them often. And, so they do participate in the program, and we always welcome their feedback.
I would ask you to consider it in the future, because I think, as again, individual recognition.
You would not be the first.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. We do have one more presentation. As I mentioned, it's going to involve Bill and John. I guess the other panelists are free to join the audience.